Hello, everybody. Wildman Z here with a comic book review. I'm going to talk about Marvel Masterworks today. It's a reprint series that Marvel Comics puts out that is sequential. It starts, if you're collecting Spider-Man, it'll start at Spider-Man #1, run about 10 to 12 issues. It's hardbound. They're usually about $50 a pop. I was getting them when they were coming out in the early to mid, from about 2000 to about 2010 or 12 or so. I was buying quite a few of these. I'm not sure if they're still making them. Certainly, you can go on eBay or Mile High Comics, places like that, and find them. Some of them are popular and they're a little costly. Sometimes I go on there looking for certain ones I want. They're like $200. I'm like, there's a lot of options these days. You have epics that come out. Epics are softbound trades. They're not sequential. And they kind of they go by runs, or they gather up a bunch of stories that kind of have a good continuity with certain characters, generally. And I've started getting into them. They're really cool. I have sometimes they're even for comic book series that I already have. I have pretty much all the Uncanny X-Men, the new team from about 1975 to the 90s after Claremont left. I wasn't too into them, and I rebuy them in epic form, or I have some of them in the Marvel Masterworks because, I don't want to damage my old ones, and I just like to pull them out once in a while, look at them, look at the advertisements and so forth. Plus, the reprints are all nice because they're freshly colored and so forth. And then Marvel also has the omnibuses, which are huge, 500-600 page collections, beautifully done, hardbound, of course, beautiful glossy paper. But, they're a little hard, if you want to pack them into a little briefcase or lay in bed with them or something like that. They're kind of bulky, so they have an advantage, but they're also a little bit cumbersome. So all these things are great. A big old school comic fan. What for me old school means from the 60s all through the 80s, I would say into the early 90s, and then I stopped liking comics quite as much, with some exceptions. There's always going to be some good stuff coming out, but Marvel and DC right now, my opinion, are not that hot. So, maybe they'll change. Maybe they'll get over their woke comics. But anyway, let's talk about this. This is a really great Masterworks of Amazing Spider-Man from 1960. These are issues from 1968. This is number 7. These stories are all written by Stan the Man Lee, and they're all drawn by John Romita. That's senior. There's a junior who draws, who's a different artist. I don't like his art as much. He's something about John Romita Jr.'s art I'm not a huge fan of, but I like John Romita Sr. They had some really good teams. It was all Stan early on, but Stan with Kirby, Stan with Ditko, and then Stan with John Romita are all great team ups. Stan really in the 60s here, in my opinion, he wrote pretty much everything in Marvel. The guy who really picked up for him, took the weight off his shoulders in the late 60s was Roy Thomas. But Stan, you could tell, in the early to mid 60s, that some books he put a lot more effort in. Spider-Man was definitely right up there with FF, and I would say Silver Surfer. He really seemed to like that character. Those were the books he really excelled in. He kind of started off weak with the Avengers. He kind of started off weak with the X-Men. He never really improved that much with them. And Daredevil was kind of weak relative. I mean, these are all fun books. I mean, any one of them blows today's books away. But I would say, my opinion is the 3 big books that he wrote early on was FF, Spider-Man, and the Surfer. Maybe Doctor Strange. He was good with that one too. But this Spider-Man is just chock full of great side characters, gags, a little bit of family drama with him and Aunt May and his girlfriends. This is in the time we have Gwen Stacy in here. This is before her death. Let me just get specifically what this was. Let's see what issues are in here. So it's all Stan Lee and John Romita, and it goes from Amazing Spider-Man 62 from July 1968 to Amazing Spider-Man 67 in December 68, but it also has in there Spectacular Spider-Man number 1 and 2, which are bulky, and Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 5, and this cost me about $45 back in the day, and that's a hell of a good price considering you have about 10 or 12 good issues in here that are, some of them are large. Here's some of the black and white Spectacular Spider-Mans. And this was not the same as the Spectacular Spider-Man that came out in color. I think in the late 70s, early 80s. I think the first one of them had the Scorpion, I believe. I think they just used the name again. But this has, there's a whole run in here that I really enjoy with one of my favorite characters, the high-flying Vulture. I love this dude because Vulture's just like, he flies, so does the Angel, he's a flyer. But he's like an old guy. I mean, check him out. He's like a geriatric, right? I mean, I just don't see a geriatric, even if he's flying, being that dangerous. And they always like boost him up. They'll say something like, there's the first issue where they reintroduce him in here. What do they say about him? It's kind of funny. Yeah, they have here's the silhouette of the Vulture. They make him really ominous. And what's it say? It says, Vulture. The dictionary says a bird, person, or creature that strikes ruthlessly and ravenously. I looked in the dictionary. It does not say that. But as we shall soon see, there's much more to it than that. Well, I don't associate. I have vultures around here in New York, even, and I see vultures in Vermont. I've been around a million vultures in Florida, and they're carrion eaters. They're not striking ruthlessly and ravenously. I mean, I'm up here in New York, and I see birds of prey that are really dangerous, like Cooper's hawks and red-tailed hawks and sharp-shinned hawks, bald eagle. They attack ruthlessly and ravenously, but a vulture, no, they're pretty much a scavenger. So, but I always like to do, this carries on with this arc that is in a previous masterwork where there's this other guy who takes over the Vulture's guys. His name's Blackie. He's a convict. He's young and strong and strapping, and he kind of sets the original Vulture up in prison for take some kind of a fall, like sets up an accident for him or something like that in a machine shop. And then on the deathbed, the Vulture, the old school Vulture, the old guy, confesses where he hid that Vulture suit. I mean, he's got a high-flying suit, and that guy busts out of prison. I guess he waited in prison all the time so he could get the information on that suit. And then he gets the Vulture suit, and he's going to go on a tear because a man that can fly in Stan Lee's world can do anything. Even if he's just a normal strength guy, but there's the ability to fly. They're recapping here that epic scene where the Vulture confesses, where he has his suit hidden, and Blackie is going, ha, 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 I got you, old man. I'm going to get that wingsuit of yours. And so, I love all the characters. But, guys like Angel and the Vulture and Falcon, we got a million and one characters that can fly like Storm and Thor that are super powerful. These guys, they should always give him a little something extra. Like, they used to play off the fact that the Angel, the high-flying Angel, was supposed to have, really good eyesight. Like, they would make that a point. And in the original Falcon, when he first came out, he didn't have a wingsuit. He was just a normal dude on an island, and I really never understood why the dude was hanging on an island. Captain America found him there with a bunch of, pirates or something, but he wasn't a pirate. He was, running from them. They never really explained the story. I have to go back. Maybe I missed something. But he had, an ability to talk to birds. He had a falcon that, sometimes the bird would give him information. He could communicate with this bird. And they kind of dropped that over the years, especially in the movies. There's nothing about him with a bird, which I always thought was kind of dumb because, they have, a robotic falcon with him now in the movie. But, it would be great if he had, some kind of connection with nature. You don't even have to say if it's a mutant power. You could kind of make it... just make it ambiguous that he can talk to birds. I think there was a guy on the Argonauts, in ancient Greek mythology, Jason the Argonauts, who was a bird omen reader, could talk to birds type of thing. That's kind of an ancient type of archetype, a man who could talk to animals, including birds. Bird omens have always been big. So you could have a superhero like that. You don't have to go into all sorts of detail, but at any rate, the old school Falcon at least could talk to his Falcon, and he could get the inside scoop on what's going on. Ant-Man's kind of like that with the ants too. He kind of can communicate with them a little bit. But I always love the Vulture when he shows up in Marvel because to me I always get a good laugh seeing these over the top villains. Some of them are not that powerful, but Spider-Man's got a great cast of villains. There's a whole bunch of cool dudes show up here. I think the Goblin shows up, and here's his Goblin, It's an awesome cover on that spectacular Spider-Man right there. The inside's black and white, but the cover's beautiful color image. I like black and white too. I think black and white is really good for like fantasy type comics like Conan and stuff like that. I'd rather have the superhero. Oh, actually, this issue does turn into now in full color. This spectacular one does get into color, so check it out on the inside. It is awesome. It's awesome, and it's Stan the Man Lee, Johnny calls him Ring-a-Ding Ramita, Jimmy Madman Mooney, he's the inker, and then lettering by Swinging Sam Rosen. One thing I've always noticed is that whenever it's the lettering by Artie Simek, I think you mentioned this last time, he totally rips on that dude. Like, he wouldn't call him Swinging. He'd say, like Simply There, something, or, Stand By Artie Simek. It's always kind of like his last resort, even though I think the dude was a really good letterer. It's hard to judge lettering. I mean, I think if it was bad, you would notice, but, check out this groovy psychedelic cover here. Shows you all the main characters. There's Aunt May, Gwen, J. Jonah Jameson. Let's see who we have here. Is that Mary Jane? I'm not sure who that is. What's that guy's name? Robbie? That must be Gwen Stacy's father. Who's that down there? Is that, what's his name? Is that the Goblin's son there? Looks like it is. And I forget the other girl at the office, but he has this whole cast there. It's pretty cool. That's what was cool. Spider-Man's kind of like Batman. He has good ensemble of villains. He's got a good bunch of characters associated with him. It's a really well written book. What's funny, when I was a kid, I wasn't a huge Spider-Man fan because when I was younger, we were kind of broke, and I didn't have a lot of money to get comic books. Like, I started getting into comics when I was about 12, I guess. And so when my mother would give me I didn't really have an allowance. Sometimes my grandmother would give me it's the same house I'm in now, but she had it at the time. And it's an acre of property outside. And we used to use a push mower, manual one. And I wasn't doing it for cardio. I mean, this was busting my ass. And she might give me like 50 cents, maybe $1 to mow the whole thing. It was like a lot of work, like a full day. So maybe every week I maybe had $1, maybe, if I went to the comic book store once every week, once every 2 weeks with $1, I was doing good. So comics at the time, I think, were 40 cents. So I maybe could get 2, possibly 3 every couple weeks usually. And, I didn't buy much else. Once in a while I'd buy fishing lure or something like that. But, we were poor. You kind of had to appropriate your money the right way. And I always wanted to go for the teams, because I figured you get more bang for your buck. So I always got the FF and I always got the Avengers. And then I would get, early on I was getting, if I had the extra comic that I could get that week, I try to get the Defenders. I would get that one. So Spider-Man kind of got left by the wayside. Then when I saw an issue of the X-Men, I guess people were snapping them up because I didn't see them. It was issue 131, which I think I've reviewed on here. I got into them. That became my go-to book. And so that was my first pick, and then I guess I would go to the FF for the Avengers after that. But Spider-Man and a lot of these single character books got left out. Once I got on my own, which was pretty young, like 17, 18, I was on my own, I got into more comics. But once I got really into college and all that, I had to back off. So now that I'm in my middle ages, a lot of these stories I've never read. Some of them I have, but some of them I've never read. And I don't have any kind of goals or machination. I listen to this one guy named Michael K. Vaughan. He's a BookTube guy. And he tries to read, every comic. And that's awesome. He'll read every Thor, every Spider-Man. First place, I really don't have that much time. I do a lot of other things like work out and work about 60 hours a week. But even I did. There's a lot of things that I would dedicate myself to, like other forms of literature and so forth. Maybe I'll read comics a couple hours a week at the most, 2 hours a week maybe. But I really don't have the goal of reading every comic book of a series. That's just not how I like to read them randomly, make it very youthful and fun. I don't want to be an expert on comics. I watch a lot of shows where guys are like this guy, Uncanny Omar, and guys, I'm like, wow, these guys know so much about comic books, but there's just too many other things in life that I personally want to know about. But I think it is awesome that people commit themselves to anything that they love. For me, I'd rather just read random stories in comics, just like I am with sci-fi. I find an author I like Gene Wolfe, and I don't read every story by him or people in mainstream, well, I shouldn't say mainstream, but literary fiction like Faulkner. I love Faulkner. I haven't read every book by Faulkner. I haven't read every book by Fyodor Dostoevsky, but I read a lot of their works, and maybe I'll pick something up later by him. But I kind of live my life always with something left in the background for me to pick up and read by somebody who I like. So I don't really have any goal of reading every Spider-Man, but I'll tell you what, the ones from the 60s are fantastic. I haven't read that many from the 70s. I read some from the 80s, but I'm going to pick up probably in the epics a lot more Spider-Man and other single character books like Surfer, Doctor Strange, and so forth. The guys are like Hulk. I've never been a big Hulk reader. I've maybe only read 10, 20 issues of Hulk by himself in my life. So there's a lot of comics out there for me to read, and just in Marvel. But at any rate, check out the Masterworks, check out the Epic line, check out the omnibuses, read the old school comics. Give them some love. New school comics, if you like them, that's for you. But for me, not so much. On that note, I hope everybody's having a good holiday season. And for the 10 people I have out there watching my videos, I just make this to talk, basically, have some fun. Maybe somebody likes it. At any rate, Wild Man Z out. Have a good one.